Welcome to Signal Live. We're broadcasting here live from the Leisure World branch in Silver Spring, Maryland. And we're here for a special event today in our branch. You can hear the saxophone playing in the background. But we are here with our branch manager, newly promoted Erica Rivera. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you, Felipe.
So, Erica, can you tell us briefly what this event is about?
So really what we're trying to bring over here to Leisure World is some awareness to prostate cancer. I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about. So we're going to do a live Q&A with our Dr. Burnett and prostate cancer survivor, Mr. Anthony Cannon, which is the guy you hear playing the saxophone right now.
And jazz and prostate cancer, they don't usually go together. Why are these two coming together now?
So Mr. Anthony Cannon is a prostate cancer survivor. So his doctor is actually the one that we have here today.
So the doctor that is here today is the one that helped him become a cancer survivor.
Yes.
And he's going to share a story today?
Correct.
That's awesome. Well, listen, we are going to go listen to a little bit of jazz music, and then you're going to hear the testimonial from Anthony Cannon himself and his doctor, Dr. Burnett. So let's go ahead and take a listen, and thank you, Erica, for hosting this amazing event.
Thank you, Felipe.
All right, let's go inside.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to take the time to thank you all for coming today. I wanted to introduce myself to you all. I am Erica Davila. I'm the new branch manager of this location. I wanted to also introduce you guys to my team. 2 out of the 3 are here. It's CJ and Maloney, who are member relationship specialists here. Thank you. And I wanted to take the time to thank Dr. Burnett for coming today and being our special guest, and Mr. Anthony Cannon for coming here and providing us the show. Thank you again. I'm going to keep this short and simple, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Burnett.
Okay. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm delighted to be here. You heard that I'm a doctor. I don't know if that makes me feel special, but in truth, I'm just honored to be here, and it's certainly my delight to be part of this program. And I think that as a physician and a surgeon all these years, I'm rewarded by having special relationships with my patients. And one of my special patients is Tony Cannon right there, and he can tell you a little bit more about the messages that he'd like to tell you about. But one thing about being a surgeon, and just to give you a little more background, I'm at Johns Hopkins. I've been there almost 40 years. I do a lot of men's health things. I take care of men, but I see women too, as a urologic surgeon. And you may be familiar with what urologic surgeons do. We're surgeons who take care of the urinary tract, by and large. So it's largely men, because we take care of a lot of things related to the genital system, the reproductive system, and the urinary tract of men. Women, it's the urinary tract, and the rest of that is women on the gynecology side. And we have specialists and colleagues who deal with that. And one of the things that I have a special interest in, and have had some activity in, surrounds men's issues of their prostate, the prostate health. And Tony may tell you a little bit more about that. I think he's been very forthright about talking about things, and so I offer my salute to him. In point of fact, the message that I would tell you is that it's easy for me as a surgeon to talk about conditions because I can do it in a professional way. But when a patient talks about it, that shows a lot of courage. That shows a lot about who they are, their character, their interests, to tell you a message about themselves, to share their messages with somebody else, and put it out there, kind of in a private matter, kind of in a public arena. And so, again, I salute him because he's truly the special one here today. And that's why I want you to congratulate. So what you see is more than a talented musician. You see somebody who's an advocate for others, carrying great messages, and a great friend. So I also want to keep things brief because nobody wants to hear anybody lecture.
Yes, we do.
Hey, you want to hear music?
Before he finishes.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. I don't even know what it is. I'm black and white television.
Urologist in the world. Not just at Johns Hopkins, in the world. He once told me that, and I know this for a fact, doctors around the world send their patients to him to save their lives. Now, would you please?
You're right. I do keep a hectic pace. In fact, I just flew in a few days ago from Dubai. I was over there operating for a few days. I have to fly out tomorrow to Atlanta to do it under Clark and do something with a prostate cancer program all weekend with that.
Assalamu alaikum.
So I'm on the move. But I'm here and there, and this fit within my schedule. So here I am. Here I am. Thank you guys for your warm welcome. Know that maybe I'll just briefly talk a little bit about men's health, if that sounds of interest to you.
Please share it with them.
Oh, okay.
You're not getting out of here that easily.
Yeah, I brought Tony my book. It just came, I one thing about being a surgeon at Johns Hopkins, I went there to medical school 40 years ago and never left, is that we're taught not only to carry out the craft of clinical medicine, but also get out and teach, get out there, be an advocate, be a scholar, wear multiple hats. So yes, I write a lot. I'm a prolific writer. This is my third book, just came out. It's called The Manhood RX. And this book here is meant to be a guide for men with regard to their sexual health, recognizing that the health of a man is the entirety of his health, his general health, his sexual health, and how that impacts one to the other. And being a specialist in the urologic arena, I do a lot to just make sure men feel whole about themselves. So this book tells a little bit about how to preserve your best health, particularly from a sexual lens, if you will, which can be important for men of all ages, not just young guys. So this book is available. I brought this really just to give it to Tony and run a little message to him that acknowledges our friendship the past few years. But certainly, if you have an interest, this book. I didn't mean for this to be a sales announcement of any kind.
Sell on.
But if you're interested, the book is available on the standard book outlets. But in any case, I also want to carry the message here about prostate cancer. So prostate cancer, and I was briefly talking about this earlier, and Tony may be able to share a little bit more about his background. But I think that's a message that about prostate cancer that we should just tell, because prostate cancer is a serious disease state. It's the leading cancer in men in the United States, the leading cancer. And men should get evaluated for this. Because while it's a silent condition, and many men may say, oh, I think I'm fine. Well, you may not have symptoms, thinking that you should have some sort of symptom that should lead to getting a doctor evaluation. That's not always so. And particularly men in age ranges that we're very concerned about, 55 to 70, 75, should probably still go on and get health checkups, just because prostate cancer is the second leading cancer leading to deaths to lung cancer, the most prevalent cancer in men in the United States. It's common, 1 in 9 men in general, 1 in every 6 African-American men. That's prostate cancer that could be a threat to their lives. So this is not a trivial disease state. It's very common. I even talk about a little bit about it in the book. The fact of the matter that men don't like to talk about their health. Many men are reluctant to even get screened for prostate cancer. They're concerned that we get treated for prostate cancer, be it any of the interventions that we bring, surgery, radiation, even hormone treatments, it impacts your sexual health. And therefore men do not want to get checked out. That's a shame, because the ultimate form of erectile dysfunction, as one patient gave me his quip about it, is not to be alive. You got to be alive. Yeah, you got to be alive for yourself, for your family. And so I certainly carry a message that all your loved ones, your brothers, your fathers, your sons, your relatives, your friends, neighbors, consider getting a prostate health checkup, because it's very important to be alive. So, unless you have particular questions, again, I don't want to make this a long lecture of any sort, but just carry the message that men's health is important, prostate health is important, prostate cancer screening is important, sexual health. Let's not, even though it's a taboo subject, let's not kind of put our heads in the sand. It's something important to recognize.
Please stay up here, because I want to share everybody the story of how I met this wonderful man. So, back in August of 2020, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. And my doctor wanted to send me, let's say, well, here's how the story goes. He said, well, we'll find, he said, it looks like, they did a scan, said, it looks like your prostate cancer has not spread. So every available treatment is available to you. He said, so we'll find a good doctor to recommend to you. But a friend of mine had already told me about Dr. Burnett when I told him that I had prostate cancer. So I go to my doctor, Dr. Ruby, and I said, well, Dr. Ruby, I got an appointment with Dr. Burnett on Monday. He said, how do you know Dr. Burnett? I said, a friend told me about him. He said, well, okay. Now, prior to that, I called Dr. Burnett's office, and the lady said, well, I can't get you in until October. I said, oh, no, that won't work. I got to see Dr. Burnett now. So she got me in to see Dr. Burnett that Monday. I go in and see Dr. Burnett. Dr. Burnett comes in. He's always smiling, looks at my chart. He said, well, Mr. Cannon, man, you're in great shape. High blood pressure, no diabetes. He said, the only problem is you got prostate cancer. And then after he said that, he said, here's the good news. I can offer you a cure. And I said, what? I never heard the word cancer and cure in the same breath. He said, the truck hasn't left the garage. He said, I can help you. So, my day went from, man, am I going to live, to, I heard the best news I've ever heard in my life. He said, you're going to walk in on Thursday for the surgery with cancer, and you're going to leave on Friday without it. How about that? And I'm telling you now, guys, I had no symptoms. Nothing. A normal prostate, just like he said. I had no symptoms. But you know what else he said? Had I come to him 4 or 5 years later, we would be having a different conversation. We talked about how he could try to save my life, if he could. So that's the importance. Don't wait and put it off and say, oh, well, I'll go next month. Go tomorrow. Go get some blood tests. That's the first indication, and Dr. Burnett will talk again more about the blood. It's a blood test. I had an elevated PSA test of 5.1. They surveilled me for 4 months. It went up to 7.3. Got a biopsy, and I met him at the right time, because he just said, hey, look, we can do surgery. And you know what else he said to me? He said, I'm not even going to offer you any other treatment, because you're too young, you're in too good a shape. He said, if you want to do something else, you're going to have to go somewhere else. He said, this is the best course. And Dr. Burnett, I'm telling the truth. He said, some of the treatments just take you off the highway, but eventually you're going to be back on the highway. So he said, no, we can fix this right now. So I'm just telling you how my story went. You got to trust somebody. And he was the real deal.
Well, let me just give you a pause for a moment.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, managing prostate cancer is challenging. It's not an easy sort of thing. I know that in this era now of the internet and online information, doctors, the media here and there, people who are not even doctors, everybody can hardly get on YouTube and think they know how to cure prostate cancer.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is, it is a complex issue, and it's a matter here of understanding the reality that prostate cancer is generally a slow-moving cancer. It does affect men as they get older, but at the same time, we need to put in perspective the fact that, if an older man has a lot of health issues, we have to kind of decide here to what extent should we be too aggressive about managing it or not. And so we're very sensitive about that because that's how we should be responsible about caring for patients. Yes, I do a lot of surgeries. I've probably done about 3,000 radical prostatectomies by now. But the reality is that young men who have got great long time lifespan ahead of them, we call longevity, is what we use, is the term longevity, that we're very concerned that those are the men that may actually be, if untreated, have a shortened lifespan. But if you're somewhat older, we have to kind of assess what is the threat of the prostate cancer. We know there's different types of it, if you will. We have to understand that patient's health status and expected lifetime and make the very best decision. That's not always easy. Not always easy. Some men should be candidates for surgery. Some men should be candidates for radiation. Some men, we may even just say, we want to keep an eye on it and just watch it and do some monitoring tests over some time. And unless it declares itself to be more threatening, we're going to really stay conservative. So know that it's not just a quick issue and just like, oh, it's surgery, not surgery, and quick, decision or any kind of flippant manner about handling things. But we do know that in young men who have got great longevity, who have great health, we want to make sure that we don't squander the opportunity to make sure their lives are saved. Because prostate cancer can take some young men out earlier than they should live. Some older men may acquire prostate cancer, but it may actually be a little bit more mild. And sometimes we're going to say, let's just evaluate you and monitor things. And that's the right thing to do there for some men. So I just want to make sure that's clear, just in terms of understanding that issue and really somewhat of a dilemma that we have to face as surgeons, trying to make the best decisions for each man, case by case. That's what we have to do. But in any case, he's had a great outcome. He certainly will say that he's recovered well. He's back to functions intact with everything. And so that's all good news. All right. Well, does anybody have any particular questions that I can address among the group here?
I have a question. So at what age the men should take the screening test for the prostate? Because usually it's like for ladies, at least at the age of 40, you have the mammogram and then the colonoscopy at the age of 50. What about for the men? Do you have a required age to do the screening?
Right. So I mentioned 55 to 70 a moment ago, in part because that's what the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force is recommending. The government is recommending that guys get screened at that age range. We used to tell men, based on American Cancer Society, the American Neurologic Association, some other regulatory bodies, you say all men after age 50, and maybe into perpetuity. But we have to be thoughtful here that maybe just for peace of mind, cost effectiveness, and for various other reasons, we may need to be more selective. So that's what the government has said. At the same time, any man who's got a strong family history, or all men of African American descent, probably ought to get a PSA. You heard what that was, a blood test that refers to the prostate. It stands for prostate specific antigen. It's a blood test that refers to a chemical released by the prostate gland deep in the pelvis. That test should probably be done as a screening test. And men probably above age 50 or 55 should consider it. If you're of high risk, as I mentioned, maybe even age 40. Yeah, that's true. And that's many are recommending that in my specialty. It's age 40 should get evaluated. And that's probably the most useful test to do. Historically, we did this test called digital rectal examination, which a lot of men say, oh my gosh, I kind of think I know what that's all about. And that's why I'm not going to the doctor. And I think the men here know what I'm talking about. And even from speaking as a physician and a surgeon, I don't think any of us have great delight in carrying out these examinations. But it's a responsible thing to do as a physician, and it's a responsible thing as a patient to know that that's done. Fortunately, we have this blood test that's come about now the past 30 years because we relied only on the examination in the past, which is the finger in the bottom and feeling for anything unusual about the prostate. I think, and there's various little things we can pick up as examiners, as physicians on that exam. The truth is the majority of prostate cancers, probably 90% of them will pick up with the PSA test, but it's not all. There are instances where there's some men who may have a normal PSA, or what it is a blood test with a certain range of values, and that may actually be within the normal range, but the prostate exam may actually reveal something that the PSA did not. That's fairly uncommon, but at the very least, men should get a PSA, but they probably should get both. That the age ranges that they should be considered at risk.
When someone goes for their annual physical and gets blood work done, is the PSA an automatic part of that, or do they have to request it separately from the blood work?
So the question being, PSA, is that standard or is that something that has to be particularly requested? And the answer is that it's not standard, and unfortunately, that's often gets neglected. Some of the education should go out not just to the general public, but also to even primary care physicians, that men who are of age ranges in particular, maybe not all 85-year-old men need to be in PSA. And the government says after age 70, you shouldn't even bother to get it. But the relevant ages, the discussion should be had with the patient, even with a primary care physician. Not even seeing a specialist like myself, just at the primary care physician level, and just have a discussion to the extent that, okay, I'm running your battery of blood tests as part of your standard physical examination. And within that, let's get a PSA.
Thank you.
But it doesn't always happen routinely, no. All right, everybody knows everything.
We don't know.
Don't consult YouTube. Come encourage your loved ones to see your doctor, and if the primary doctor really has any concerns, because they can still be the frontline person, then that person should be referred on to a urologic surgeon for assessment. So I do appreciate your attention. You guys have been a great audience. You have a further music plan for the rest of the day. That's probably more attractive than my standing up here lecturing about prostate cancer.
Not necessarily so. With all due love.
So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Tony. Thank you very much. All right.
This next song is a song that I wrote for this young gentleman. It's called "The Good News."
That's okay.
Thank you very much. I was just saying, I said thank you, but I was able to thank him again by honoring him with a song that'll be forever. So,
So there you have it. That was Anthony the Turk Cannon and Dr. Arthur Burnett, and they both did an amazing job sharing about prostate cancer and really being proactive and taking care of your health. So I hope everyone took notes and listened. Go out and get your PSA exam, guys, because it is important. I actually had my annual physical 2 weeks ago. I'm going to go back and get my PSA exam just to be sure. So hope everyone's taking care of their health and stay safe, and we'll see you back next month. Bye. Oh, and check out Signal.